Long before sprawling empires mapped the Indian subcontinent, the ancient eastern region of Kalinga operated as a decentralized, scattered network of indigenous tribal communities. These independent chiefdoms sat on a highly advantageous stretch of coastline. By reading the seasonal monsoon winds, local navigators began pushing wooden boats out into the Bay of Bengal, establishing direct trade routes all the way to the East Indies. That geographic advantage flooded Kalinga's ports with wealth. Ivory and spices flowed in, transforming this collection of tribal settlements into a major global trade hub for the ancient world. A region producing that much independent wealth inevitably draws the eyes of expanding empires. Kalinga's coastal prosperity made it a primary target for military conquest. In 261 BCE, the Mauryan Empire marched east. Emperor Ashoka aimed to absorb Kalinga's wealthy ports into his domain, resulting in the devastating Kalinga War. Thousands were killed or displaced as the region was forcibly brought under imperial rule. The scale of the bloodshed famously caused Ashoka to renounce violence and adopt Buddhism. But for the people of Kalinga, this transition was an imperial mandate delivered by the same military that had just decimated their population. Ashoka carved edicts into rock faces and erected imposing stone pillars across the territory. These physical remnants of Mauryan occupation acted as permanent symbols of imperial control. This created a central tension that would define the region for centuries. Kalinga was now locked in a struggle to reclaim its autonomy and forge a unique identity separate from the massive empires of the north. Ashoka's invasion had an unintended consequence. To survive the occupation, the scattered tribal chiefdoms had to unite, eventually hardening into an organized state capable of producing its own powerful indigenous dynasty. By the 1st century BCE, that indigenous power materialized. King Kharavela of the Chetty dynasty rose to power and led a successful military campaign to drive foreign influence out of Kalinga and reclaim its independence. Kharavela pushed Kalinga's influence to its peak. He marched outward, defeating rival Satavahana kings and sweeping across the borders to expand his domain. We know the details of his reign because of the Hati Gumpha inscription. Carved directly into a limestone cave, this chronicle serves as the definitive primary source for Kharavela's military victories and daily administration. The inscription proves that Kharavela used state wealth to actively patronize Jainism. He funded the excavation of the Udaigiri caves for monks and launched military strikes specifically to reclaim religious artifacts stolen by earlier empires. For ancient kings, carving achievements into a cliffside served a specific purpose. It ensured their political legitimacy and historical record would survive long after their mortal lives ended. Between the 6th and 10th centuries, the era of tribal resistance evolved into an age of highly organized medieval kingdoms. The Bowat-Hara dynasty rose to prominence during this period. They were notable for elevating powerful female rulers to the throne, with queens like Tribhuvana Mahadevi I successfully navigating the region's complex internal politics. The Bhomakaras focused on bureaucratic unification, absorbing fragmented regions like Odra, Toshala, and Kongoda into a single administrative state. Their specific tool was standardized land grants. Distributing land directly to loyal officials wove a tight web of political allegiance. At the same time, the dynasty engineered a deliberate religious shift. They transitioned state patronage away from early Buddhism, blending local beliefs with emerging traditions of Shaivism and Vaishnavism. The Bhomakaras demonstrated that systematic bureaucracy and integrated religious traditions were the keys to lasting stability. They provided the structural blueprint that later medieval empires would inherit. Following this period of administrative growth, the Eastern Ganga dynasty took control. Their strategy focused on centralizing power through architectural dominance and divine right. They commissioned the Jagannath Temple at Puri. It functioned as a major symbol of state-sponsored Hinduism, visually dominating the coastline and drawing pilgrims from afar. They followed this with the Sun Temple at Konark. Designed as a massive chariot aligned with the sun, it displayed immense royal wealth and authority. The engineering required was staggering. Artists executed these intricate stone carvings across massive sandstone blocks using only basic tools and precise manual skill. Massive temple construction served as a political tool. By transforming the physical landscape, kings cemented their authority into the religious daily life of the region. These monuments successfully wove the state's identity into the religious life of its people. By acting as the primary patrons of the gods, the Eastern Ganga kings placed their authority at the center of Kalinga's spiritual landscape. Eventually, the independent dynasties collapsed. In 1568, the Bengal Sultanate conquered the region, bringing an end to Kalinga's long history of self-rule. The political consequences were immediate. Kalinga lost its sovereign independence, and the descendants of its rulers became tributary lords under foreign empires. Yet the loss of political borders did not erase the region's identity. The cultural and religious identity forged by the early dynasties remained unbreakable, surviving for centuries in festivals like the massive Ratha Yatra. The ancient ports have long since dried up, and the military banners have decayed. But the true legacy of ancient Odisha proves that while empires fall and borders vanish, power immortalized in faith, art, and stone lasts forever.